Hello, and thank you for watching my video. This is something that has been asked of me quite a lot recently since I started doing a couple of Guild Wars 1 videos. And that was the differences between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2, and how easy is it for a player of one particular game to get into the other. Now, for those of you who saw my Revenant lore video, you'll notice that particularly for the Malix, because I found out that I was pronouncing that wrong instead of calling it Malinx. But Malix, there was a very kind person that was actually helping me out do that quest, and he'd never really played Guild Wars 2. He played it a lot at launch. He played it for like 3 months and never played it since. And so I came into him and I said, look, you know, I'm a Guild Wars 2 YouTuber and I want to make some Guild Wars 1 videos. And he helped me out and he was asking me questions about Guild Wars 2. And so he's come in, he's joined my guild, and I've been helping him out do some Guild Wars 2 stuff. But he was saying that he's finding it very difficult that the differences between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 are so much that they are pretty much, apart from the fact that they're set in the same universe, very different games. And he was curious to see how he could easily get into from one to the other. So I'm starting off here in Guild Wars 2. As you can see here, I want to show you what the whole layout actually looks like. You can see we have the minimap. We have 10 skills, and we can actually change these out of combat whenever we want. There is no instances apart from dungeons. So, for example, if we look at the big minimap here, the big map, we go to Gandara Fields. We're in with a load of other players. And also, just to also show you, we have waypoints, so we can zoom around the map. We don't actually have too many outposts. We only have really the cities, but generally you get you leave where you start off where you left off. So if you die in Gandara Fields, when you log out, you log back in exactly where you were. And this is the whole map. So you can see here we've got different zones. They're pretty much block squares, different sort of rectangle and square shapes. And that is the whole world of the map. You've got these dungeons marked off, and they are 5-man instances. Alright, okay, Ara now to do the story mode isn't 5-man anymore. But then you've got the cities as well there, where obviously most of the main trading goes on. And then we've got some of the expansion area that we have over here. So this is Guild Wars 2. And then if we look at the actual characteristics, if we press I to bring up our inventory, these are the slots we have. We can go to a crafter. We actually have crafting in this, and we have a wardrobe section. So, for example, let's go to the tailoring station. You can see here all of our skins are in there, so we can actually change our skins at will, which is pretty damn cool. And we've got all our materials in the bank. That we actually have a very cool section up here called Deposit All Materials. And there's a lot of stuff in Guild Wars 2 that isn't in Guild Wars 1. So one of the main things is combat. Now combat is much more dynamic in Guild Wars 2. You have dodge. As you can see here, I'm dodging around. That isn't in Guild Wars 1. It is more static. You do damage with skill 1. Here it's all about, you very rarely, apart from certain classes, use skill 1. You'll be like, that doesn't do too much damage. It's these other skills that do a lot of damage. And that isn't the case in Guild Wars 1. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to log out of Guild Wars 2 and I'm going to start on Guild Wars 1. Okay, so welcome to Guild Wars 1. I am on my Monk, a profession not available in Guild Wars 2. And as you can see here, it's all very, very different. We actually have people in Kamadan, which is actually in part of Ilona. And this is one of the main areas in which you actually do a lot of trading, because trading is done there is no trading post, which meant that it's very, very much harder to sell some of those top end ones. As you can see here, lots of things going on here. Also, if we notice about the whole heads up display, this actually can be changed around. This doesn't actually have to be like this. It's not as rigid as Guild Wars 2, but this is the minimap. It's a circle. Again, you can draw on it, you turn it around, and you actually you can turn around. You can actually do that in Guild Wars 2, but however, I prefer to have mine static. We actually, if we look at here, we have the skill bar. We don't have the health in the middle. Our health is to the left. You'll notice as well the health is a lot less because you hit damage for a lot less as well. It was much reduced back in Guild Wars 1. And we have energy. Now, energy is something that was in Guild Wars 1. It was all about energy management. and you'd have a lot of static fights, so you'd just stand here firing and doing lots of different skills. It wouldn't be much evasion apart from ranged weapons where you'd just move around like this. Again, also it is a lot. I used a lot of point to click, so it's a very different style of gameplay. Very much about this energy management, using skills, and in when we talk about skill, I would say the energy management skill was a lot higher, and the skill selection and your builds were a lot higher, much more, they were much more demanding in Guild Wars 1. You actually had to have a very, very good build in a lot of cases, and so working out a lot of builds was some of the interesting part of the game. However, in Guild Wars 2, you can dodge around a lot, and there's a lot more flexibility. You can be, in my opinion, you don't have to be as good a player in Guild Wars 2 to be very, very, to do a lot of things. In Guild Wars 1, there are certain things in Guild Wars 1 you cannot do unless you're a very good player. It's that simple. And so, generally, Guild Wars 1 I found much more challenging. I enjoyed Guild Wars 1, but let's also have a look around. What else have we got here? We actually have two sections. We have hard mode and normal mode, something a lot of players are calling for in Guild Wars 1. Hard mode didn't come in until several campaigns down the line. And what that does is, if you can see here, we have all these missions and you have the sort of areas. But let's have a look. If we do it in hard mode, suddenly it all changes. You've got these red helmets, and that is the mission in hard mode. And these areas here, you actually have to kill all the enemies in the instance, and that area will get cleared. And that is called the Vanquisher. You became a Vanquisher of that area, and you get a lot of rewards for that. But also, one of the major differences is heroes. You got heroes along the way, because obviously you're in instances, you're not fighting with other players, you do missions generally without other players. You needed a lot of heroes, and these heroes are customizable. So you can see here, this is a hero of mine, this is Goran, and if we press K, bring out the skills, you can change a lot of his skills, how he acts, and you can put runes to make his skills a lot stronger. Sorry, that's not hero. I want to do the eye. So you bring up the inventory, and then you can see here you can actually influence his armor as well and his weapon. So there's a lot more customization in Guild Wars 1, and that's one of the things. If you are a solo player, Guild Wars 1 is actually pretty good for you, because getting heroes, you can set them up how you want. You can bring whatever along you want. You want 3 warriors, you can take 3 warriors. If you're a warrior as well, you could have a 4-man warrior team. You got 3 monks here, plus me. I could have a 4-man monk team. You've got 3 necromancers, you've got ritualists, paragons, dervish, elementalists. You can have whatever you want, whatever combo you want. And that's some of the flexibility that you get in Guild Wars 1. There are a lot of other differences between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2, and I'm not going to go into every single detail. I just want to talk about how it is for you as a player. If you want to get back into Guild Wars 1, or if you've never played Guild Wars 1, how good a game is it? In my opinion, it is still a very good game. There are still people out here, as you can see here, look at all these dots here, these are all players. Guild Wars 1 is still an active game. It's 10 years old, but is still pretty damn good. Alright, the graphics maybe not as good, it feels slightly slower. When I say slower, I mean the combat, but generally it's not a bad game, and I would recommend it. It's very, very cheap, to be honest, compared to a lot of other games out there, and it's worth it. Well, you will spend a lot of time playing Guild Wars 1, and I think it'll give you a lot bigger background into the lore and history of Tyria. But let's have a look as well. What other things, we've got a lot of heroes section. This is a lot of the titles that you could get in Guild Wars 1. And, if you want to get your Hall of Monuments points, you've got to go back and do this. And this doesn't take too long for some of these. Some of them do take a long time. But again, it's pretty worthwhile. So, for me, this Guild Wars 1 is a terrific game. And if you're a Guild Wars 2 player, it might be a bit tricky getting back into it, and a lot of this is very much more clunky. There isn't too much speed boosts. It generally feels a bigger world out there, because not only that, if you look here, you've got all these outposts, but there are certain places where if you were in Nundu Bay, you'd have to, if you want to get to Sunwood Marshes, okay, so ignoring Venta Cemetery, you would actually have to run there through this. You can't, there's no waypoints around. You can't get over here. You can't get there. You have to go in one of these exits and start there. If you want to get to this point on the map, you have to go through that entrance all the way over there. So it felt a longer game. You were moving around the world a lot longer, and generally it just felt a very much a more accomplished game. So you can see here that's one of the hard mode missions I've done because it's gone gold. So that is Guild Wars 1 for a Guild Wars 2 player, but remember there are a lot of differences that Guild Wars 2 has come in, especially to do with the combat. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in, let's bring a load, I'm going to select a load of heroes. So we've got 4 of us in this, because we're in a starter zone. We're going to go into the Plains of Jaren. You can see here I haven't been in here a while, it's going to load up. So we're going to go around, and I wanted to get you guys to see what the difference in combat is. You know, this is me just, you know, chatting away to you guys, showing you straight up what the combat's like. So here we go, this is the difference. We've got a, you know, combat system here. We've got this Fang Deboga. This is actually in hard mode. So you can see here, there's 71 on the top left. That means obviously there's 71 enemies that we have to kill. And this is in Vanquisher mode. So you can see here, this is me being pretty static. If you want to heal them, you've got this heal skill here. So it's pretty much like whack-a-mole, where you have to try and make sure all your party's staying up. So you can see here I've got this enchantment going on. That's another thing. There are enchantments in Guild Wars 1. And here we go again. So we're fighting here. I'm going to put a enchantment on me. And generally, you know, if you look at the energy goes down. You've got to try and keep the energy up. And there we go. So these enemies are, you know, I remember I'm a proper elite player in Guild Wars 1. I've got a full, you know, elite heroes. They're all set up. But you can see here the amount of damage that we're doing. See, it's very, very little damage. But I am a monk. So, and here we go. We've got a load of enemies coming in. And this is going to be a bit tricky for me. So this is going to be good for you to watch. We're going to heal the party. I'm going to put Patient Spirit on him. We've got Selfless Spirit as well. So we're going to do a lot of healing. We've got this healing skill up. Let's put that on there. And this is a lot of whack-a-mole type stuff. This is why certain people like playing monks in Guild Wars 1. I didn't. I felt it was pretty boring. I didn't like this whole scene. I'm not really attacking. I'm just focusing on healing up my character. So that's something, if you do enjoy that in Guild Wars 1, if you do enjoy that in general, that is why Guild Wars 1 is still a good game for you. However, you know, using heroes, you can just go around and do this yourself. So that is Guild Wars 1 in a nutshell, and let's go back to Guild Wars 2. Okay, so we're back in Guild Wars 2, and what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to go and head into Gindaren Fields, and we're going to go and fight some combat. I would like to point out as well, I think Guild Wars 1 had a lot more high-end challenging content, and why was it challenging? What for you as a Guild Wars 1 player would find it challenging was that there were a lot of mobs, they were high levels, so they took a long time to kill, and they would overwhelm you, they would cause a lot of damage, and there isn't a lot of that in Guild Wars 2. It is very easy. If we look here, we've got this wolf. Okay, so I'm on my own, and you can see here that I'm just going to I'm attacking it. Alright, so I'm a little bit over level, but there we go. That's that down. It doesn't take too much. There isn't a lot of challenging combat out there in the world for Guild Wars 2, but let's have a look at the combat system. We've got this dodge system. It's a lot more about where your positioning is, which I think, as I said to you earlier in the video, that energy management players were very, very good in Guild Wars 1, and Guild Wars 2 is a lot more combat orientated. So if you are good at dodging around, good at positioning, this type of thing is actually going to be really, Guild Wars 2 is going to be a better game for you. Because in Guild Wars 1, positioning wasn't too important. Maybe positioning your heroes, but generally your position on the battlefield, if you're fighting, what difference does it make where you are? So look, we've got this spider here. Does it make a difference if I stand there? In Guild Wars 1, this is me. I'm just standing here fighting. That is me in Guild Wars 1. I just do this, and that is it, dead. Alright, okay, you can do that in Guild Wars 2, but let's have a look at this guy here. Okay, so we've got a spider. But look, we can go around, we can strafe, we can, you know, we can dodge, we can do around. He's not going to get any attacks on us, and that's him dead. So that's the difference between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 regarding combat. But generally, as the feel for it, I feel Guild Wars 2 is a more sociable place. You feel a lot more connected with people, and you do see a lot more people out in the world. Obviously, you've got world bosses, but is Guild Wars 1 or is Guild Wars 2 a better game? It's really tough to call that one. I think both of them have their own unique points, and I think if you're a Guild Wars 1 player trying to get into Guild Wars 2, It is a different combat system. It is a very different system. There is a lot more quality of life in Guild Wars 2, and I do recommend that you at least give Guild Wars 2 another try. If you're a Guild Wars 2 player, should you play Guild Wars 1? Absolutely. Guild Wars 1 for me is still one of the best MMOs that to go down in history. Alright, it may not be as big as some of the other major ones out there, such as WoW, but I do think Guild Wars 2 will be in the top 5 of best ever MMOs out there. And so I feel that you can still go out there. The story is still fantastic. You've got heroes, so you don't have to worry about if you're on your own and there's no other people. You can go and do it solo, or go with a friend and go and do all the missions and quests. It's a fun game, Guild Wars 1, and I do highly recommend it. Go back and have a look. Go back and try it out. For those of you who haven't played it, again, I haven't played Guild Wars 1 for 3 years, almost 3 years, because my account got hacked and I didn't want to play it. I'm really enjoying being back in Guild Wars 1. I found it really interesting. Obviously, it's not as polished as Guild Wars 2, but I really enjoy it all the same, and I'm finding it much more challenging than Guild Wars 2. But that's something that Guild Wars 2 need to work on. Anyway, I would appreciate any advice, any suggestions you guys have. If you've not got into Guild Wars 1 or not get into Guild Wars 2, if you haven't got into Guild Wars 2, I don't know why you're watching my channel. Just joking, but seriously, if you're a Guild Wars 2 player and you've never played Guild Wars 1, I could recommend picking up Prophecies, giving it a quick go. It's a long old campaign, but you'll enjoy the story a lot more. It's a really well designed game. I think Guild Wars 1, the one word to describe Prophecies for me would be epic, the storyline in that. And that's obviously where they've missed out on in Guild Wars 2 as well. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. See you on the next video.